Welcome to another video. This is Voorhees Retro 81, and this is a video response to Girl Pain, a hot off the press video response to Girl Pain, I might add, because I feel like he's just put this video up about 15 minutes ago. Of course, by the time I upload this, knowing me, it's probably not going to be a lot later than that, but you know, it is what it is. So he was answering, he was video responding to somebody else, so this is a video response within a video response. He was talking about his top 5 favourite systems for gaming, and so I'm going to do the same. His video was very interesting. One of the things that I found interesting about it is that he seems to be quite into his retro stuff, but at the same time a lot of his systems were also very modern. Mine, as you're going to see, is, well, it's not super old, but there's at least 2 systems on here that are like from my childhood kind of era. So some of this is like relatively like pseudo recent, and some of it is very not. So without waffling on too much, before we get into the meat of the video response, number 5. And me and Girl both agree on this, although I can't remember if we agree on the exact positioning, but we agree that this is a favourite system, is the humble Nintendo DS. In my case, the Nintendo DS Lite is the one that I most frequently use. This is a great system. I think it's kind of underrated, actually. There are a lot of games on it that are really, really good that not a lot of people know about. There are a lot of kind of like, you know, off the wall kind of titles that you wouldn't expect to be, you know, necessarily, you know, you kind of went under the radar. I mean, obviously there are great games like the 3 Castlevania games, and Contra 4, and, you know, kind of pseudo obvious things like that, and Mario Kart and the such, like, you know, the Nintendo staples. But also there are fantastic games that, like, you know, I often find kind of seem to be a bit obscure. Titles like Moon, for instance, I'm particularly partial to, and I'm currently playing Hotel Transylvania, which is a cool Metroidvania spin-off of the semi-maligned kids movies, which, you know, from what I hear, the movies aren't very good, but the game is really cool. It's got really great pixel art and great sort of, like, you know, kind of like simplistic Metroidvania style gameplay. Speaking of Metroidvanias that aren't necessarily so well known on there, it's also got Aliens Infestation, that although it's extremely difficult and kind of roguelike, in that you have a limited number of inverted commas lives to get through there. If you lose all of your marines, that's it, it's curtains. So then you've got to start the game over again. So it's quite a brutal game, and that's maybe why it's not as big as it could be. But that's a fantastic pixel art Metroidvania in the Aliens universe that I would recommend to Aliens fans or Metroidvania fans, or both alike. So yeah, that's a fantastic system. Always really enjoyed doing that. Floating Bush, gotta love some Floating Bush. You know, I've had a great time with that. I quite like the 3DS as well, but the 3DS was kind of like one of those consoles that I don't think Nintendo really put much effort into sorting out a decent library for and such like, and they really sort of lent into just like, in Europe, just pushing everything out through the eShop, which meant that prices for games were fixed at really expensive levels. Like, there were 2 more Samurai Warriors games after Samurai Warriors Chronicles on the 3DS, but in the EU they were both download only, and since I had a PAL system, I never bought them because I couldn't afford 40 quid for, you know, or the hard drive space to download each of them separately, when like the previous one, you know, cost me like sort of 35 as it was on a cartridge. So, you know, they kind of dropped the ball with the 3DS, but I still love it. I'm gonna keep moving on. Me and Gull also agree on this one. Xbox 360. I really dig the Xbox 360. I will say that I do worry a little bit about the practical longevity of the Xbox 360, because it's not very well built. So that's my main caveat about it. I've gone through so many Xbox 360 joypads, and I'm not very hard on joypads. And I've also had to send my Xbox 360 away to get repaired, and it's the only system that I've had to send away to get repaired. there is some more Tales of Woe later on one of my other selections in terms of repairs and breakdowns and such like, but we're, again, fantastic library, huge library on the Xbox 360, much like the Nintendo DS, and some of the, and I think actually one of the things that links all of these systems for me is that they've all got really good libraries, and with the exception of one, they've got pretty large libraries as well, so you can really get stuck in, you know, and find games that are unique to you that you really enjoy. There are deers spawning all over this damn mountain, my goodness. It's like I didn't play Skyrim for a week because I went back to work, and suddenly they have been screwing like the proverbial rabbits, which is all good for my hunting business and my blacksmithing, because I can make loads of leather armor, and that'll be good. I'll get loads of experience and I'll be able to level up again soon, which would be great. So yeah, the Xbox 360 is great. Some fantastic games on there. Again, some great games that, you know, aren't necessarily massively covered off on, but are really good fun. Like, for instance, a favourite game of mine on the 360 is Lord of the Rings War in the North, which I don't really hear a lot about, and people tend to mainly talk about the Shadow of War games on the PlayStation 4, and I think they came out on the 360 as well. The first one did anyway. When it comes to Lord of the Rings RPGs, but the earlier War in the North is definitely one of those like sleeper games that's well worth picking up for the system. I love Samurai Warriors 2. I'm a big fan of the Warriors games anyway, and there's been so many great games that I've played on the 360. You know, I can just go on for days about great 360 games. Oh, I say, do you mind, sir, whoever that was? Where are you? Oh, you moved. Messing up my video. Oh, man. Bullet time, son. Yeah, I like them apples. And you as well. You can have some of that. Bloody skeletons. Screwing up my video. Right, number 3, as we just had a got sidetracked by being attacked by a ton of skellies. Number 3 is the Sega Master System. I have banged on about the Sega Master System multiple times on vlogs. I love the heck out of the Sega Master System. I debated whether I was going to put the Sega Master System in or put the Sega Mega Drive in and then talk about the Master System, because I used the Mega Drive power converter to play Sega Master System games. The Sega Master System, with the exception of, you know, hanging out on Skyrim, the Sega Master System is my I feel like doing something but I don't know what go-to. I will fire that up, play some Pac-Mania, play some R-Type, play some Sega, a bit of Ghouls and Ghosts, you know, Dynamite Ducks, whatever. You know, I just love playing that system, and it's always a joy to sit down with. And it has a lot of crossover with a system I'm going to talk about very shortly, which means that even though I didn't have a Sega Master System growing up, and I didn't get one until I was kind of in my 20s, the games still have an awful lot of nostalgia for me, and it's great to play versions that are, from a technical standpoint, although they don't have the nostalgia and they don't have the the longer times I've spent playing them from the other system, which I'm going to discuss, which I'm trying very hard not to spoiler. Anybody who's watched my previous videos about old games will probably guess what it is anyway. It's great to sit down and play games that you know, I remember from my childhood on the Sega Master System and see them kind of closer to how they were meant to be because of the advanced technology, and just experience them all over again. Number 2 is the PlayStation 2. I have ridiculous numbers of PlayStation 2 games I love. I have always, you know, since I've had the PlayStation 2, I have always had a PlayStation 2. I've now gone through 3 PlayStation 2s. They can be quite pernickety, especially now that all the machines are about 20 years old, because a lot of the time because of the fairly weak power connection between the actual switches and the motherboard, or because of the disk drive. But oh my god, the PlayStation 2 has so many good games. and it's such a joy to play. The PlayStation 2 joypad is like my favorite controller to use, and it's just such a pleasure to sit down and play the PlayStation 2. You know, fire up Devil May Cry, you know, fire up Gunbird, you know, Killzone, you know, Mercenaries, Jak and Daxter, Soul Reaver, Scalar. I'm just looking at my PlayStation 2 collection right now. Tokyo Extreme Racer, Aggressive Inline, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So many great games. I love that system, and I've been doing my best to never be without a PlayStation 2 by my side. Fantastic system. Now, one system that I don't have right by my side, but it is definitely my favourite, is the Commodore 64, which is in at number 1. We had a Commodore 64 as our, you know, go-to gaming system pretty much from about 1984 through till probably, like, we didn't really transition to playing games on the PC until, like, sort of like probably about 92, 93. So it's probably about a good, you know, 9 or 10 years, which doesn't seem like that much now when you're an adult, but you know, it's a huge period of time when you think about, you know, that you're doing that in your childhood. I mean, the interesting thing about the Commodore 64 for me is that I have been back and played it recently, and I feel like, you know, since I've had the Master System, you know, the Commodore 64 versions of multi-format games don't necessarily hold up as well as I expected them to, but they also definitely, you know, compare relatively well, even though some of them, like, I prefer the Master System's versions of Ghouls and Ghosts and Bubble Bobble, for instance. But I still really enjoy the C64 versions as well, and it's just a system that I love playing. I love going back to. It's got fantastic sound chip on it, which, like, you know, like, music is something that, like, really sort of fuels a lot of my experiences. You know, the sounds and the music around things that I'm playing as games, or things that I'm watching as films, etc., or, you know, music that was playing when something happened in my life, stuff like that. And because of that SID chip, like, so much of that sonic nostalgia with the C64 just washes over me when I play it. And there are a lot of great, like, C64 only games as well. And, you know, that was just a really interesting time for gaming, because it wasn't like this massive, you know, now it's like this massive multi-million pound business, and you know, it's all run by targets and deadlines and such like. And back then it was like, you know, there was an awful lot of people just sitting in their you know, in their bedrooms, like, coding games on their C64 by hand, and you know, the same for the Spectrum and the Amstrad. So it was just a really exciting time, and, you know, all that kind of comes flooding back to me when I fire those games up, and I'm crap at them now, as my Ghouls and Ghosts video definitely showed. But, you know, it's just a great system, and you know, everybody who put their work into that system and the games, like, I thank you, because, like, that's a huge part of my childhood that I'll cherish. Anyhow, I hope this video was interesting. I'm gonna cut it relatively quick right there. Thanks for watching, and peace out.